Alright YouTube, we're back at it on this Evo Sporty. I got the lower tab cut and tacked in place to the fender mount. We're just doing a single tab down there. The upper mount, I started making this before I turned the camera on. Just some flat stock, drilled some holes. Got it marked to round it off so it doesn't look like just a piece of flat stock welded in there. This is going to sit somewhere in here like this. And we're going to do another tab on the fender so when this is suspended, weight will be going down forward onto this bracket. It's not just going to be the nuts and bolts. But I'll start grinding this away and keep you updated as we progress. There's that bracket all trimmed up that I was working on earlier. Got it mounted on the bottom side. I'm going to put another 90-degree bracket. Well, it's not going to be a 90, but a flat bracket off of the fender. It'll tie into that. Bolts are going to go through, 2 3/8 bolts. Got it all TIG welded up and in place, centered in the fender. Got a piece of 1-inch bar stock here now holding this up off the wheel. Still got to drill the holes for the sissy bar mount that we're going to reuse and clean up some of the welds and probably structural that one and make that one a little bit more structural. But nice, quick, simple little bracket. I just got to keep jamming along and finish fabbing the rest of this thing. Trying to align this, so I sharpied everything out on this. We're making it work with an old sissy bar that's not really in the greatest of shape. So just trying to land all of these roughly where they need to be. So we can get some holes drilled and get the rear sissy bar set, and then I'll make the bracket from the fender to the frame. Got a hammer sitting in there. We're reusing a bunch of freebie parts from either buddies or a bunch of the old stuff we had laying around the shop to slap this together. So this sissy bar was on my iron head originally. So it's just getting put together to make it work. Eventually we'll probably get around to redoing a nice new sissy bar on this, but as of right now, this is what we're working with. Let's see how much room I have here. Trying not to change the wheel alignment yet, so this will sit right about there. Not a whole lot of room to get around this tire right now. It will have to come out, but I don't want to pull that until I get at least all the mounts tacked up and in place, since everything needs to line up according to the fender. I don't have any 3/4 bolts, 3/4 inch length bolts, so these are also too long. Fighting a million issues right now. But if I can get a couple threads in this to stabilize it, then I can make that front fender mount. Well, mid fender mount, I guess. Problem is, when my hand's underneath this fender, it sits real tight and doesn't want to give me enough room to turn the bolt. Oh, I got it. All right. So the first version of this sissy bar actually did sit pretty straight. It's a little crooked now, it's cracked a handful of times. This is the first one I built. Didn't use thick enough material on the bar stock. And the original version, it was just a Springer seat, it wasn't a king queen, so it didn't really have any support. The new and improved version of this, when I put a big king queen on there, it tended to fit quite a bit better. Alright, so that's all the mounts, everything's kind of on there. Again, the sissy bar is not perfect just because it is old, but everything's set up to fit. If we look at it from here, got one lower mount. We're going to have to make a spacer down here for the bracket I got going off the frame. And one bracket across here, 2 holes to mount. The bracket will weld onto the fender, so this will actually press fit down into here. Other than that, it's roughly mounted. Alright, we're going to run some angle iron off the fender so I can weld it a little bit more solid around the actual fender. So that should give me enough. There's our bracket. That's what we're going to start with. Again, we're kind of recycling a ton of the parts we have laying around. We're going to dress that out. That's going to get welded onto the fender. And then put the fender onto the mount. Again, everything in this, you can split it, split it a bunch of times. If you're building a show bike, you want to do something a little bit more detailed, go for it. If you're just building a rider, going quick and easy on this. I'm not over fabbing or overthinking anything else. On my chopper, everything is stainless. I made all the brackets and bungs really nice, but on this we're just getting it ripping and rolling down the road. So essentially, if this gets welded onto the fender, it'll one cover these holes too. When that goes on, we'll be able to weld a nice strong blocker around the fender instead of just having like a 90-degree tab coming straight off, adding rigidity to the bike so nothing will break. The other option, if this was like a single piece of flat stock, a lot of people will just weld the tab pretty much that way right onto the fender. That works too. I just even if you weld both sides, it's going to have a little bit of play when you're welding on a fender that's not that thick. So, let me prep this out for some holes and drill these out. The mic that I was using died in the middle of filming this, so everything I'm talking about during the course of the video is no longer there. All I'm doing here is grinding off the Bondo and paint on the fender to prep the bracket for welding. Kind of had to move the mounts and kick it back just to make sure I could get a nice clean bare metal surface to weld up. And then we throw the fender back in, I'll get everything aligned, and then I'm lining up the angle iron bracket with the holes in it right now, getting everything set in place for welding. Once I got the bracket all centered, just put a couple tacks, 2 tacks on each side to the fender, so this bracket's getting welded to the fender. I'm just using the bolt holes that I drilled in the bracket for an alignment reference. Got everything set, welded it up. Well, started welding it up and then realized that I got a hole in the gas line on the feed to the torch. So didn't have time to get this done, and I really just wanted to get the bracket done, so threw some masking tape around it. Did not work the best, but it definitely worked. Do not recommend using it that way. I need to replace that hose, or at least patch that hose. That'll be in the cards sometime this week. Then just a quick time lapse of welding up the bracket and get everything done. Again, I was commenting and giving you details on what I was doing during this, but
I had the mic hooked up
with a dead mic, I had no idea
hoping that you guys
until
could
now.
hear me over the compressor,
So
but the battery on the
hopefully
mic
this
died.
time-lapse
So
works to
the last bit of
explain
the video
exactly how we're going about doing this.
did not record any of the audio while I talked myself through it,
But basically just grinding down all the Bondo and paint, getting this prep for welding. Fender's here now. not completely tightened down or mounted, but got everything set up here. Everything's TIG welded in. Now it's just a matter of bolting it down. So I'll do a time lapse of that from up on the perch there, walking around the bike and getting the welds in. But unfortunately, we'll have to make it work. Catch you guys later.